The only thing that's kind of hard to counter with that is if they do grunts with demolishers and raiders. It's a little harder to fend off because they do have the demolishers to be able to focus down your spirit walkers really effectively, and your Kodo beasts if you do have them. Also, they have the grunts to counter your raiders. It's kind of a tit-for-tat thing because your spirit walkers do counter their grunts, and your raiders kind of counter what they have and such because of your ensnaring ability. Also, you do have the ability to hero snipe them a lot more if you do pick the Blade Master, which is probably the importance of being careful of your hero selection. Really, if you're a more aggressive player and you like to focus down their heroes a lot more, you're going to be going with the Blade Master Shadow Hunter thing, most likely. The only reason you would go against that is if you think you're really good with the Farseer Wolves and you can really get them in there and use the Ensnare to focus down their Farseer or their Blade Master. But if you do like to snipe down heroes and you like smaller unit battles, you're better off going with the Blade Master. If you like bigger unit battles and you kind of like to creep a little more but do some sort of harassment earlier on, you will probably be leaning towards the Farseer and Firelord combination. The reason you'd go with the Farseer is because you can pick off small units pretty quickly. It allows you to creep, it allows you to harass early on in the game. I just find it's a more flexible hero. Also with the Firelord, it is an optional second hero. You can pick a whole bunch of different second heroes, obviously. I like to go with a Farseer, and sometimes I mix in a Naga, sometimes I go with the Shadow Hunter. I find the Shadow Hunter is a lot more effective than the Naga, but if you do have a tavern map such as Echo Isles, I generally go with either the Naga or something like a Panda. It really depends where they're going. If they're going with the Headhunter thing, then I'll go with a Panda. Like, it's mass Headhunters and a couple of Spirit Walkers here and there. If they're going with mass Kodo Beasts, I will go with the Naga, just because it gives you the cold arrows and the ability to really snipe down individual units at a time. Also, mixed with Raiders, it's pretty good, because, you know, you have the Forked Lightning, you have the Raiders, and you have all this ownage going on that they will have a problem trying to counter. Also, another unit combination that I've used that works really well with the Naga is I've gone with Raiders and Shaman, and you might think this is crazy, but it really works against things like the mass Headhunters because you do have the ability to go with, you know, the mass Lightning Shield all over their face, and you do have the ability to purge all their summons. The only thing it's not good against is sometimes it's really bad against things like Spirit Walker Kodo Demo or, you know, Raider Spirit Walker Demo. It's really hard to gauge whether it's going to be effective until you try it, because I found that it's effective for different types of players. Like, I'm kind of a creep and harass at certain areas of the time, or at certain points of the game. Like, if I figure I have an item advantage, I will go into their base and, you know, use the item, whatever, and see if I can do a little ownage there just to regain a little map control. Otherwise, I will usually do a lot of creeping. It just gives you high-level heroes, and I love that. But, you know, if you're a really aggressive player, I would not recommend going with the Raider Shaman type thing, because really what you're doing is countering them for the whole game. Like, they come in. Also, Purge is great for Kodo Beasts, because if you run out of Ensnare, you can always use the Purge to stop them. They do pretty much no damage. It counters their summons. It's another way to snipe down heroes. I just find that Shaman are great, and it gives you the option to go tier 3 and get the Bloodlust and really put some ownage in their face, which is great. Also, it kind of scares them because they're like, oh no, he might go tier 3. I might have to go with Spirit Walkers, which is why when I was mentioning the encounters, they always had Spirit Walkers, because pretty much everyone I've played who's seen me with Shaman start going Spirit Walkers because of the fear of the Bloodlust. And really, I don't find that Bloodlust is that effective if they do have, you know, the counter to it. So I just kind of use the mana elsewhere. Also, it kind of works well with Wolves because, you know, you can Lightning Shield one and send it into their base, or you can Lightning Shield a Grunt, right-click it next to their gold mine and check a couple minutes later and, you know, hold position, whatever. And it really kicks the crap out of their resources. I mean, sure, they might win the battle, but they've pretty much lost the war, so I find that that's really effective. Sometimes I like to use the Witch Doctor thing, which is kind of old school, but people still have a really hard time countering it. And my favorite strategy on Lost Temple, which I mentioned kind of before, is Mass Wind Riders. You might think this is crazy, but if you focus down their Voodoo Lounge enough, and you can like find it wherever they try and hide it on the map, you're golden. They won't be able to counter it. All they will do is ensnare and focus down, and hopefully they'll think it works and be like, yeah, I'm so screwed without Bat Riders. Excuse me while I take a sip of my Coca-Cola. That is tasty. No, I'm not sponsored. So yeah, there are multiple options in the Orc Mirror thing. Some are more effective than others with certain playstyles. Like, if you're going to be doing what Grubby's doing, you kind of have to have the ability to switch from passive to aggressive really, really quickly, and to be able to use, your hero sniping abilities and such. And you're going to have to put up with a lot of crap with the Kodo Beasts and tower pushes, because for some reason, people who tower push, or people who mass Kodo Beasts, have the tendency to mass towers in front of your base. It's kind of a pain in the ass, but you have to get used to it. And I find that if you do get used to it, it makes the human versus orc matchup a lot easier. And you might think that's crazy, but fending off tower pushes is always a great thing to learn. Sorry, for any player. So, I stick with that. I like to diversify my strategies when I play. I'm kind of a flexible player. Sometimes I just play shitty and, lose. But I like to be able to diversify what I'm using as, weapons. Especially with my hero selection. I have crazy hero selection. Tainted Sun knows this. If you've seen the 2v2 that I posted in his staff profile, you know what I mean. Anyways, Shadow Hunter, great hero to use in Orc Mirror in pretty much any type of game, because his Hex and Healing Wave is so invaluable. It makes you have to purchase a lot less, healing salves, and Hex is just a great thing to have anyways. It's kind of like an ensnare that doesn't let them even attack or, do anything. Sure, they can move a little, and if they do use a speed scroll, they're kind of quick for, a demented rabbit known as, like, a Blade Master. But I just find that it's a great hero to have with you pretty much at all times, especially when you get it to level 4, because you have the level 2 Healing Wave, which is fantastic. It pretty much heals an entire grunt at any time of the battle. And also you can stack up like 4 hexes, and they'll just have like 4 little sheep or rabbits or whatever running around. Sometimes it's a vulture. Also, if you're doing the mass air strategy that I mentioned earlier, Shadow Hunter is great for that, because right when they start pumping out those Bat Riders, you can hex them, and if you do have like 1 or 2 Raiders with you, you can ensnare their Bat Riders, and then you can just focus them down with your Wind Riders, and it's kind of a pain in the ass. Problem is, it's kind of an effective strategy if you do a push like right away when you have 4. Otherwise, it's kind of the most useless thing in the world, because, you go out to creep, and somehow you see these Bat Riders coming out of nowhere and blowing up in your face. It's really not, as fun, but if you do get massive amounts of upgrades for your Wind Riders, you're okay with the Healing Wave. Also, if they do go Kodo Beasts and they don't push your base like a Lake Duck did, and they don't set up the towers, or you fended them off fairly well, you should be able to set up an Expo so much easier, because they won't be able to base rush you. They won't be able to ensnare your peons as easily, and you have such an advantage with your Expo anyways, that you might as well push them and try and force as many TPs as possible. Speed scroll into their base, try and focus down their main. And also, if you have a bunch of Raiders, you might as well pick up Pillage to focus down their main anyways, because that way you gain money after, you waste a TP and they've wasted a TP. You've gained money, you haven't really lost an advantage, and they've been forced to repair. So you can just do the mass hit and runs. All they can really do is try and outweigh you with their hero advantage, and it's really hard to do, especially versus something like, I don't know, a Blade Master and a Shadow Hunter, just because they have such nice hero sniping abilities. So I'm going to end off the informational part of the audio there. Thank you guys for listening. I hope you learned something about Orc Mirror, which is pretty micro-intensive, but at the same time it's very strategy-oriented. Play safe, stay in school, don't do drugs. Peace out.